This photograph was made in Beijing, 1989, where the Tiananmen Square massacre occurred. This massacre represented the fail of the CCP and their attempts to legitimize the party in the late 20th century. As educated youth from all across China came to protest the Chinese Communist Party, otherwise known as the CCP. Unfortunately, these protests were stopped with brutal force, and in 1989, it marked the change in the CCP into its modern form of legitimization. Good morning, my name is Kamira Bergling, and in this presentation, I will discuss China's party demands and private enterprise. My research question is, to what extent is the modern 1989 to present legitimization of the CCP improved by influencing private enterprises in China? I am arguing that the instances in which the CCP has influenced private enterprise have significantly improved the legitimacy of the party. They do this by using resources from private enterprises. The reason for the CCP's success using private enterprises is because they use it as a central resource to continue their legitimization. Some evidence of this is the Rural Taobao program. That's a joint cooperation between Alibaba, one of China's biggest companies, and the Chinese Communist Party. This program helped develop job opportunities for people in rural China, and it also stimulated e-commerce in rural parts of China. As you can see from this graph, in 2008, 15.4% of rural netizens engaged in online shopping, and thanks to this program, all the way in 2015, there's 47.3% of rural netizens that are engaged in e-commerce. The CCP also helped with lowering food prices. They lowered food oil prices, for an example, and it made middle-class, low-income support. This was done in 2010 when the NDRC ordered that oil prices should remain stagnant for 4 months. And lastly, the CCP worked with Alibaba once again to develop an app, which is a patriotic app titled Study the Strong Nation. CCP members, civil servants, and public sector employees, as well as college students, are required to use this app. This app is controlled and monitored by China's public department and has become one of China's most popular apps with 180 million users. This was a key spreader of the CCP's ideologies and information, which supports the CCP's legitimization process. Jude Blanchett, a foreign policy analyst and chairman of China Studies at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, stated that Xi Jinping has overseen a significant transformation of China's domestic economic system, undergirded by important new reforms that have drastically expanded the reach of Chinese state into the economy of Chinese firms. This has included the integration of the CCP's organization into public and private firms. This quote adds that the government's influence in private Chinese enterprises is used to consolidate the power over the economy and extend their reach overall. The reason for such cooperation on the end of private enterprises to the government's expanding its reach is because private enterprises are incentivized by the pursuit of market profits and the promotion of social contentions of certain events. They are also required to self-censor until the party line. Sally Chen, a lecturer in media and cultural studies at the University of Sussex, provides the motives of private enterprises with state influence, as it is easier for private firms to profit from party support and grow as a company if they work with the government instead of against the government. Even if these companies they have to toe the party line and self-censor as a result. As you can see, a non-private owned company mandated policy of adapting to party building provisions was taken by 92% of privately owned enterprises when it came to symbolic use, 15.7% for personnel use, and 25.2% with decision making. Even though state-owned enterprises did this more so than private enterprises were not mandated to do so, and they decided to because they wanted to seek the incentives of working with the CCP. Building economic fortitude is another essential private state legitimization strategy for the CCP. This is done through using red capitalists, which are state-connected owners of private companies that, according to an article by China Economic Review, proves that party affiliation helped private entrepreneurs in securing loans from state state-owned firms. As you can see, the top 1,000 private owners in China have 65% of them have direct equity ties with the state owners. And the largest 1,000 to 10,000 private owners have 44% direct ties with the state and 27% indirect ties with state owners. China is also reforming state-owned enterprises with a grasp release method by keeping only large state enterprises and combining them to form industrial conglomerates controlled by the government. The CCP is doing this to increase productivity and profit, which in turn reflects positively on the governance of the CCP. Marina Stevenson, a sinologist and professor of modern Chinese studies at Lund University, found that China continues to depend on private companies in order to develop its digital economy. It is obvious that the growing financial power and impact of Alibaba and other IT companies such as Tencent raise political concerns. They raise political concerns because state-owned enterprises are not doing as well as private enterprises in return of assets. And that explains the former SOEs and the grasping and releasing programs, which only helped the state-owned enterprises by a little bit. As you can tell with the peak between 2012 and 2011, state-owned enterprises made approximately 0.075% in return on their assets, while private companies made almost 0.2% return on their private assets. Okay, Gary Becker, a sinologist and professor of economics at the University of Chicago, stated that China needs to rely more on private sector to become a major economic power, in short. Which also agrees with the graph that private-owned enterprises are making significantly more than state-owned enterprises, which is why China needs them to legitimize their power and also prove that they're doing a good job at building up a strong economy. From the College Board provided stimulus, the first inaugural address of Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR stated that America can be helped by preventing the foreclosure of our small homes, our farms. It can be helped by insistence that the federal, state, and local governments act forthwith on the demand that their costs be drastically reduced. FDR stated his intention of demanding that their costs for homes and farms be reduced to legitimize his future as the president of the U.S. In similar fashion, so does the CCP when they demand oil prices to remain stagnant during times of high inflation, thus depicting how influential leaders in private enterprise use it as a resource for their legitimization. Today, the CCP has a staggering 98 million members. The CCP has also been described as a resilient party, and according to Ash Center, the central government has a 92.3% satisfaction rate and increasing rates of membership, as you can see from this graph, signifying that the CCP will continue to operate in China and potentially continue to grow into a global economic power. This is my works cited page. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Okay. First question, back up if you would for us here on camera. Thank you. What evidence did you gather that you didn't use, and then why'd you choose not to use it?
I didn't use evidence on censorship, like the CCP using their influence over private media companies to censor information that went against the party, because I felt like it didn't fit with mostly economic factors happening in China, which is more so related to private enterprise.
Okay. And what advice would you have for other people to take on this topic?
I suggest that they use primary sources, try to figure out the perspectives of entrepreneurs in China and see how they're restricted through antitrust laws, which is a really big motivator for them to continue to support the CCP.